Hello and welcome to the FF News of Vroon. I'm your host, Douglas Mackenzie, and on today's show, we're going to be diving into football fintech and the partnerships in between. And joining me are two guests that are right at the heart of doing that. First up, I have Mark Rollins, the head of partnerships over at Everton Football Club. Mark, thank you for joining us so close to the kickoff of the Premier League. How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks. My pleasure, Doug. Yes, going great. Yeah, as you said, a matter of hours before our first game on the weekend in the Premier League, home to Southampton. So all very excited for that. Obviously, Sokin making their debut at Goodison Park as well. So looking forward to seeing that, and let's fingers crossed 3 points, right?
Yeah, well, I wish you guys the best of luck. And also, yeah, as you said, we've also got Vroon, Modgill, the CEO of Sokin, a global currency account provider that's focused on creating an open and transparent payments platform, which I think is really at the heart of the fintech revolution. So I'm so excited, Vroon, to get your perspective on this kind of development. So Vroon, can you how are you doing? And can you tell our audience a bit more about Sokin, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having us on, Doug. It's great to be part of this just before the season kicks off. So yes, as you said, Sokin's a global currency account provider for both consumers and businesses. Our ambition is to provide as many currencies as possible to any individual in the world, attached to a Sokin card that they can use when they travel, they do money transfers, they use locally, but not just for individuals. We want that experience to be the same for businesses. And I think that's what's brought our relationship with Everton to the forefront, I think, on this topic of conversation today as well.
That's amazing. Now, I think really one of the key parts of this partnership is to enable finance for good and that kind of connectivity around the whole world. But before we embark on that quite big conversation, I want to come to you, Vroon, and ask, how do you define finance for good? To you, is it the improvement of access to financial services and literacy, or is it disrupting maybe some of those current systems that have been in place for several hundred years?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. So it's a good question. So greater access, definitely. I think that's the aim here. That's the aim of what we're trying to do. We've set up as a global business so that we can provide that greater access to individuals and businesses across the world. Non-discrimination is at the heart of Sokin. Being from a migrant family myself, I know the issues not of just people sending money, but also coming into a new country, having to go through that rigors and process of just opening an account. A lot of people come here to work and they have to go through an arduous process of having to do their long shifts Monday to Friday and then spend time on the weekends and sitting in a bank waiting for someone to open an account for them, essentially. And what we're doing is providing them a fast route to do that, no matter where you are in the world and where you're coming into the country. So I think this is why, much like Everton, if you use the power of sport to motivate, educate and inspire people in the local community, that non-discrimination is at the heart of Sokin. And then we see ourselves as a people's card, because we are providing a service to the people. And this is why we're linked in with the People's Club as well. So it's a great partnership for us because of that sort of community aspect that we both have. We have it on a global scale. It's a global club as well. And there's a lot of alliance there between the two. So yeah, I think that's probably our approach to FinTech for Good. Forcing innovation, meeting customer needs. People want things faster, cheaper, and much better. We're moving into a world of subscriptions, which is the key aspect of our business model. And we want to make things transparent. We don't want to be one of the other guys that are too greedy. So whether you're a business, whether you're a consumer, you'll see the same FX rate on the same platform. It won't change. And this is why we want to make sure that there's no discrimination between anyone, people, business, or consumer.
Well, I think that's absolutely incredible. I mean, you touched on a point where people who have just moved country are incredibly time poor. Even if you speak the language, and to be able to just know that you're getting those same rates must be an incredible lift of burden, and that's absolutely amazing. Now, you also, Vroon, you touched on what Everton does in terms of that global reach, but also helping communities. And Mark, can I also get your perspective and see your definition of finance for good, or really how partnerships for good can work?
Yeah, sure. I think so. From a financial perspective, you've got the expert in Vroon here. I think what we saw, and Vroon touched on in his answer about the People's Card and the People's Club. And it was really clear for us, from us very early on in the conversation with Vroon and Sokin, that they put their customers first. And as a club, that's absolutely our ethos. You know, we have a really loyal, engaged fan base, global fan base, which obviously, you know, is part of the reason that this part will hopefully be so successful for all parties. But I think it was that ethos of Sokin, that putting their customers first, and then their needs and wants and desires, offering them a service that's going to help them, that really resonated with us. So, you know, we're incredibly tight with our community. We're a community-focused football club, and we do a lot of amazing work with our people, our fans. And we just see Sokin as an extension of that now, and, you know, an ability to reach new audiences and offer our fans services and solutions from across the world. So we think this has got a really exciting opportunity to bring us closer to our fans, and all the best partnerships deliver mutual value, right? And that's one of the great things about here, is that I think the scope for that and the opportunity for that was clear from the day Vroon and I started having conversations.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. And you used a word there, Mark, the opportunity. And I think if I could kind of look at that going into the future, Vroon, fintech is often characterized by its attempt to open up financial services and even democratize financial services. Do you think over the last 5 years that opportunity has been successful?
So yeah, I think global transfers seem to have been forgotten or left behind as the industry has evolved. Lack of awareness of a better product on the market, lack of education of how fintechs can enable innovation. I think, you know, I think these are sort of my main key points on this. And I think when we set up Sokin, we had the idea, the ambition of one world, one community. So we really sat back, and when I was deciding how we're going to do this product, it was very much with a global mindset. And global transfers was at the forefront of that, because I think there's a lot of providers, especially in UK, Europe, and a lot of fintechs, where the goal seems to be to go out in your local market, raise money, and then the goal starts to become just raising money. The actual goal seems to be forgotten quite quickly as to what actually were you trying to do.
Wow,
you know,
yeah.
I want our product to be used within Latin America, whether people are sending money from Paraguay to Argentina to Brazil to Argentina. Just because we're a UK company doesn't mean that we can't provide the same service for them. It doesn't always have to be UK, Europe to the world. You know, we can have local communities as well interacting, and that's key. And this is where I think we're taking global transfers to a new level.
Well, I think that's absolutely brilliant. But I've got to ask, you know, it sounds incredible, but why has it taken so long for innovation in the cross-border payments industry? I mean, it almost seems absurd that we're still paying those tariffs just to send money across borders. Why have we got to that point?
Yeah, I think it's also to do with a lot of the technology advances around the world. You know, 5 years ago, going into certain parts of Latin America to talk to a bank about APIs was a difficult conversation to have, because it was an idea that they wanted to get to that. So often, a lot of the companies that you see now, you know, that are so UK, Europe heavy, they had limitations in what they could do at that time. We've been quite fortunate that when we've been releasing, when we've been going into market, that the banking partners that we speak to across the globe have now a tech infrastructure that we can work with, and we can do it remotely, because we've done this during COVID. We've done it during the last 2 years. So for us, it hasn't really had a big impact, because, you know, our technology speaks volume. Now, if this 5 years ago, you'd have to go to the local market, you'd have to visit the banks, you'd have to go speak to them, you'd have to go speak to local partners. But now everything can be done like this virtually, and it is easy, and technology is just getting better. Everywhere, every region you go, there's something being picked up by someone from somewhere. You know, there's certain parts of Asia where they're miles ahead in payments. You know, they're leaving sort of the West behind on their payment processes. And I think, like I said, when we had our global approach, we picked the countries that we felt were there from a technology standpoint, and they could offer us the service that we need for this initial launch. And that's how we approached it. And I think it's just a matter of time. In the next 5 years, there'll be another fintech that starts out, and we'll have another advancement where they'll have it different to us. We just got to make sure that we're there to be easily, that we can evolve at that time in the next 5 years. And I think maybe a lot of the European fintechs didn't think that far ahead, or thought this is the only way that it can happen. And we've been quite fortunate that at the time we're launching, a lot of the sort of the technology advancements are being seen now around the world, and we're at the right place, right time to kind of integrate with them.
Yeah, you really come at the perfect time, because I think a lot of the large financial institutions, the traditional banks, maybe entered a period of being very static because they didn't look at partnering with tech companies. They thought they had to do everything in-house. So I think, being able to leverage partnerships to continue your mission is going to be critical. And now, if I could come to you, Mark, I think fintech is still considered by many as a niche. They see finance and they don't see the technology behind it. It's very much two different things. So, Mark, let's explore the partnership side a bit more. How can partnerships with football teams like Everton, a global brand, help bring companies like Sokin to the mass market?
Yeah, well, football is known as the global game. The Premier League's the world's most watched sports league. Over 3 billion people watch it every season. It's ritualistic, it goes into the homes of people in every 4 corners of the world. So from a mass market perspective, this is the opportunity and will put Sokin at the heart of the world's favourite sports league, right? So and it's one of the most historic and traditional football clubs within that league. We've been we were a founding member of the Football League, we were a founding member of the Premier League, we've never been relegated out of the Premier League, we're second in the all-time Premier League rankings in terms of league position, top division rankings. So not only has Sokin partnered with a top football club, they've done it in the biggest sports league in the world, and the goals that generates, right? So it gives Sokin a platform to bring its products and services direct to Everton fans, but also football fans. And aside from this, obviously, it's the affinity that our fans have to the club that Sokin can leverage. It helps them build trust and authenticity, and that's why it's so important for us that we partner with the right brands, because we know that our fans trust us to do so, and then obviously that trust then imparts onto Sokin, and we'd have to be confident that what we're, I guess, broadcasting to our fans is the right message and it's the right brands, and I really feel with Sokin that we're doing that, and I think fans from across the world will benefit from products and services. And actually, as I said in my previous answer, it has the opportunity to bring us closer to our fans and then closer to the club, and that can only be a really good thing.
Yeah, and I think you've really hit the nail on the head there, Mark, in the fact that Everton does have that very traditional heart within the Premier League, within the top league, that really highlights how much of a community-led organisation you are. Now, with that in mind, Everton have such a strong home support, and I always remember Goodison Park as a Fulham fan, just nowhere, we're never going to get any points there, but this partnership looks to be a brilliant way to expand that global fan base and take it further. So how can fintechs like Sokin support Everton's ambition to innovate and better engage with their fans across the world, now that the Premier League really is, as you said, the world's #1 sport?
Yeah, well, I think, Doug, first thing to mention, obviously you mentioned about the strong home support, and we haven't had them for the last 18 months, and we can't wait to get them back into Goodison Park on the weekend, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. But look, whenever we partner with a brand, I think we take learnings to how they operate, and I think that's, we have multiple partners in various different sectors, and for us it gives us an amazing insight into how these different business sectors work. So we think it's important that we take those learnings. We're a 140-plus-year-old football club. So we're partnering with a brand like Sokin, who's trailblazing in its own business sector, and we've got to take learnings from that. Sokin have spotted a niche in their sector, and they've built products and services that put the people first. As a football club, our product is the football, but we have so many other different touch points with our fans and how they engage with us, and it really is part of their life. So if we can just take a little bit of inspiration and learnings from how Sokin are building products to engage with their customers, then that's going to be a good thing. As a club, we've actually got a sort of long history of innovation. It sounds crazy to mention this now, where we are now with the world of social media, but we're the first football club to ever have a social media account.
Wow.
To go on an overseas tour, but if you take it all the way back, we were the first to ever wear numbers on the back of our shirts. So that ethos still remains at the club, and we're not afraid of taking those steps. And I think what you can see with Sokin and the discussions we've had so far today is that they aren't either. So there's a lot of synergy there, and loads of things I think we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
I also think, from a partnership perspective, one of the great things about this is obviously, the mutual value that this partnership creates for both Sokin and Everton, in that Sokin are obviously leveraging the Everton brand and our fan base, but reciprocally, they're using the club and our values within their own marketing collateral. So they are literally taking the Everton message to a wider audience, and that is when you get the best partnerships, when the values align and both partners have a similar outlook and ethos, and that comes through in the activation. So yeah, we're really looking forward to get going. We've got some great plans for the season ahead, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and well, one narrative that seems to be coming out of this, and Vroon, you actually brought this up, is this a kind of working local but globally. So yeah. I'm also really interested in your perspective here, and in how a fintech like Sokin can support Everton's ambition to innovate too. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's no surprise that, like Mark was giving the statistics about the Premier League and how well it's doing globally. Even during COVID, most of the Premier League games were broadcast worldwide. All games were. I think you could see the power of the Premier League, power of the clubs like Everton that have ambitions. They've got a nice new stadium coming up in the next few years as well. And they're taking it to another level. They're taking the club to the next level. And we're providing them not only an opportunity from our perspective to reach their global fans in a way that, Sokin accounts, they use the finance team at Everton use our global currency accounts. Their fans are using our accounts as an interaction that we can have between each other as well. We're providing them the ability to have that overseas expansion quite, easily. They don't have to have the issues like other corporations and other institutions that we work with going into new markets, because they have the comfort of knowing that, currency is not an issue. If we need to make payments, it's not an issue. We need to receive payments, not an issue. And like Mark has also said, we when we first spoke to Everton, our ambition was to align it with theirs, to see where they were and utilize their fan base as well for us, to make sure that we can provide their fan base first and foremost a service, provide the club a service that works for them, and then get that message out there as to what we're about as well. Let's not beat around the bush here. We are using Everton's brand as well. We want to market ourselves. We're doing it on the biggest watch sport in the world. Everyone watches football. You could see from what's happened over the weekend how some clubs are gaining new followers, like double the amount of what they used to have. So we're really excited to be in this, working with the likes of Everton, working with other clubs as well. And we can provide something, not just Everton, we can provide businesses the chance to go global while staying local. And that's our main aim, right? We've gone through COVID, we've seen what people have had to do, we've seen how people have had to expand their businesses. You had yoga teachers in, Santa Monica doing yoga classes to people in Asia, people in Europe. Fundamentally, how they're going to get paid, right? Where they're going to get their money from to do those classes. You need an account like ours without the rigors of a 4 or 5 month process to open up a bank account in whatever country you're in. So I think this is where we're helping each other, and I'm really excited about our sort of relationship that we've got with Everton.
Yeah, and well, I think you've touched on another point there, in the fact that ultimately fintech is also ubiquitous. Everyone needs to make a payment, and being able to have that technology that Sokin provides also does benefit Everton. Now, Mark, collaboration and partnerships have been a big part of the fintech movement, and obviously for football clubs, commercial partnerships have kind of been your industry's bread and butter. So how can fintech and football come together to deliver value now that both fintech and football are becoming very commercial?
Yeah, I think I've sort of touched on this already, but really all good partnerships are based on creating mutual value. And ultimately the best ones deliver the value for the people that matter, and that's the fans. Vroon's mentioned that they call themselves the People's Card, and obviously we're the People's Club, but you can see from Sokin's products and services that they've been designed with the end user in mind. Working back from that means that everything's based squarely on delivering value for their customers, and obviously potentially now Everton fans are their customers, right? So we're proud to be taking that message to our fans together with Sokin. And with the global fan base we have the ability to broadcast that message to an extremely wide audience. I mentioned before, not just Everton fans. Yes, I'm sure all Everton fans will sit down at 3 o'clock on a Saturday and watch our games, but you know, how many fans also watch several games across the weekend now, you know? So that puts Sokin at the heart of that. And, you know, we know Sokin's products offer innovative solutions for sections of our fan base. You know, it's going to save people money, it's going to increase convenience, and offer solutions that didn't exist for them before. So if we can get that message out to more people that would benefit from that, then it's a great thing.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that awareness, Vroon, football clubs, as we've talked about, have been able to leverage their brand because they're safe in the knowledge that there are supporters of either that team or even just the league in pretty much most countries around the world. So how we're just starting to see that awareness. I think in financial services, I've started to see people get quite protective of who they bank with, depending on their cards, what their cards look like and everything like that. So will people ever compare their financial services providers like they do any other brand?
Yes, I think they will. I think that's just the way that the way of the world at the moment. It's quite, you know, it's quite a big thing. Well, what are you wearing? What are you using? I think we want to create that brand. I'll be completely honest. We want to make it, you know, we've got some exciting projects coming up, which I can't speak about right now with Everton in particular, especially around that branding side, where we want to make it, you know, like every Everton fan, you know, is excited about the new kit coming out. We want them to be excited about, you know, branding up with Sokin because of what we've got planned. And I think it will go that way. But at the end of the day, Sokin, I didn't create Sokin purely to go out there going, I'm going to make the biggest brand in the world or do something. You know, I started this company to make it easier for my dad to send money, right? That was my main purpose. If my dad, and I still have that motto, and that's still relayed around Sokin and all the employees. If my dad can use it, it means it's good, right? Because that is the market that we're going after initially. That is the market we want to see. And I think that brand value sort of naturally just comes as people start using it, as people start making people aware. You know, you send money via Sokin, you will send a link, people will sign up to it, people will get that awareness. What happens is our relationship with Everton will just accelerate that when people then are saying, oh, seeing it on the screens and seeing it on the LEDs, and they'll see that.
Yeah, and I think it's such an incredible point to hear is that fact that you're keeping the product at the heart, and it really, that service speaks to itself, because it's not just a product, it's actually enabling Fintech for good. It's enabling people to connect with themselves financially and connect with their families in better ways, and ways that should have been established 200 years ago, realistically, and is now finally being acted upon. So guys, I think that's all we have time for, but thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely insightful hearing this intersectionality between, you know, a ubiquity of financial services and also the world's global sport. So guys, thank you so much for your time. And well, actually, I think the best way to end it is to kind of throw it out. Where can people find out more about you guys? You know, Vroon, if I could start with you, where can people find out more about Sokin?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sokin.com is our website. You can go on Sokin Global, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can also download the app, and everyone can start using it and start, as travel is starting to open up a bit more as well, you know, that sort of the headaches when you go to a POS or doing a POS transaction in Europe where you're scratching your head, do I accept in GBP or do I accept in Euro? All that headache is gone now.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much. And also, Mark, you know, where can people find out more about the partnerships with Everton and yeah, what's happening next with you guys?
Well, if we do our job properly, you won't need to look too far to a partnership like Sokin, right? That's the reason that Vroon's initiate the partnership. So you'll see them making their debut this weekend at Goodison Park, and you obviously see a raft of activation throughout the season as well. So sort of stay tuned for that across our digital channels, Everton website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So that, you know, hopefully you won't have to look too far for that. And obviously, you tune in every weekend and support the Blues, right? Because it's the best football club in the world. I know I'm biased, but it's true.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the Sokin brand on over at Goodison. So guys, thank you once again, and goodbye.